To teach English, you don't need to speak Japanese. You just walk in there and you speak English. Like immersion. You work with a teacher. So in the room there's supposed to be you and another teacher. Now they're not supposed to do this, but there might be a time you go in there and it's just you for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes or for the whole class. If that happens, you could tell your company, but usually it's something like unavoidable, like a kid was like bleeding in the hallway and the teacher had to take him to the hospital, but they wouldn't do it on purpose. They could, but I actually like it when the teacher leaves, because then it's rhyming time and I teach them whatever I want, and no one can complain about that because you weren't there. But usually you speak your part in English, and the teacher speaks in Japanese, and you guys get together, and you just have this kind of back and forth for the kids. And in some schools they don't want you speaking Japanese, so even if you're like fluent and you already changed your name to like Aki-san, they don't want you to speak Japanese, because kids are kids, and once they know you understand Japanese, they're just going to talk to you in Japanese, and they're just going to turn off that little English part, like, I gotta learn English so I can communicate with the new foreign guy. But once they know you speak Japanese, it's like, huh. In Japanese, they're all like, what's up, man? I know you speak Japanese, so I ain't going to study no English. And sometimes you can't even acknowledge that you understand what they're saying. So one time, a kid was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I live in da-da-da. It's like, you understood what I said. And then for the rest of the year, he's just like, you speak Japanese. And you just won't let it go. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're saying now. So you got to be careful about that. But it depends on the school. Sometimes they want you to speak Japanese, because sometimes it just makes things go faster. But I assure you that if you could figure out how to explain something to kids without using any Japanese, it will make the class go even faster. Because Japanese is like a crutch in the classroom, because they're not going to try. For me, I'm the master when it comes to blackboard drawings. I'm not even Picasso, man. I'm like a cubic Picasso dude. I'll just be drawing random pictures. Like this little square here, that's an elephant. And they're like, and like, yep, that's an elephant. And over here, this little squiggly line, that's the moon. And I make up stories, and they're all like kind of getting into it. And it works. One year, that's all I used, the blackboards and pieces of paper, because I didn't want to make flashcards. And then my company stepped in like, you must work, we want you to make flashcards. Like, for what? We're doing just fine with the little pieces of paper and the blackboard. But it's the company. You fight them, you lose your job. Make your own job, but, well, that's an option too. And the third question or fourth question, I don't know where you're at. You might be asking, how much money do I need? Well, I have a perfect analogy, right? Have you seen Walking Dead? It's a movie on AMC. It sucks if you live in Japan because we can't get it directly. I gotta buy it from iTunes. Hulu doesn't come up to date with it. That's another story. Life in Japan, right? So, in Walking Dead, they only have so many bullets. Now, in reality, you don't need any bullets. You need one bullet. You could walk around with no bullets and still live in this kind of zombie land type of thing. But the more bullets you have, the better off you would be. You can afford to waste a couple. Like, bam, I shot him in the leg. He's still moving. Bam, So the more money you can have, the better off you be. But you don't need a lot of money. The first time I came to Japan, I had about $1,500. So that's a lot of... No, it's not. It's all I had at that time, and it was rough, because you don't get paid until maybe 2 months, and that first paycheck is like a half a paycheck. And you got bills. You want to get a new cell phone. You want to move into your new house. You want to go out with your friends. You want to... All this costs money. And if you're just new here, you don't know where the cheap places are to go. You know, and if you go out with the other teachers, they always want to go to the most expensive place to eat the sushi. And, you know, so you'll run out of money pretty quickly. So the more that you can bring, the better off you be. But if you don't have a lot of money, don't let that stop you either. Just, you know, get up on Google and look for cheap places to eat. Or ask Ryman. I know all the cheap places because, you know, after the first time, I'm like, you know what, I ain't spending all this money to sit here with you guys. I'll go over here and spend 100 yen. And I became the king of 100 yen food, man. I found a 100 yen shop. That's a place you can get a lot of foods. And I used to eat like hash browns and spaghetti, and they were like 4-course meals from the dollar store. And it tasted pretty scrumdiddly-umptious. So, you know, you got to use your brain. And I think if you don't have a lot of money, it makes you really dig to find things to do. And, you know, when I first came to Japan with school, you know, my friends, my classmates were going to Hokkaido to go snowboarding and go down to Kyoto and all that good stuff. Which I did want to go to, but I didn't have any money. So what I ended up doing is just walking around, finding those little shops, find those little clubs, and just exploring Japan for what it is. And I think, I'm sure they had fun doing whatever they did, but I also had fun, and I saved a buck or two. Yeah. So, you know, if you can get a lot of money, get a lot of money. But if you don't, then use your brain and figure out how to, you know, save and pinch some yens. Alright, that's all for this one. If you got any questions, ask Rhyming at rhyminggaijin.com. Make sure you share, like, fave, add some comments or whatever. Alright, peace.